At the Port of Seattle, a critical hub for international trade, an unprecedented calm has descended. For 12 straight hours, not a single ship left China headed for California's main ports. The usual hustle and bustle, the constant movement of goods, has ground to a halt. That hasn't happened since the global pandemic, a time when the world economy was brought to its knees. Now the specter of disruption looms once more. Shipping companies are overwhelmed as tensions in U.S.-China trade return, sparking a sudden rise in demand. The carefully orchestrated schedules are in disarray, and the pressure is mounting to find solutions. With business slowing down, people are saying this actually means losing less money. The reality is far more complex, with long-term implications that are only beginning to be understood. According to Vision, container bookings from China to the U.S. have dropped by nearly 50% in just 1 year. This dramatic decline paints a stark picture of the challenges facing the global supply chain. This all began when the Trump administration raised import tariffs to 145%. The move sent shockwaves through the international trade community, triggering a series of unintended consequences. A few weeks later, they were brought down to 30%, but the damage had already been done. The initial shock had disrupted established trade routes and created a climate of uncertainty. Ports are overwhelmed. Containers are stuck. The infrastructure is struggling to cope with the backlog, creating bottlenecks at every turn. Trucks have nothing to haul. The ripple effect extends far beyond the ports, impacting businesses and workers across the country. Businesses are canceling orders. The uncertainty surrounding trade policy is forcing companies to make difficult decisions, impacting their bottom lines and future prospects. What started as a trade policy is quickly turning into a nationwide supply chain crisis. The interconnectedness of the global economy means that disruptions in one area can quickly spread to others. This isn't only about trade, it's about jobs, prices, and trust in the entire system. The consequences of this crisis are far-reaching, affecting the lives of ordinary people in tangible ways. So, why did trade collapse even after the tariffs were reduced? The answer is complex, involving a combination of factors that are still being analyzed. Why did the 90-day tariff freeze, which began on May 14, 2025, lead to more chaos instead of relief? The freeze, intended to provide stability, instead created further uncertainty and disruption. Across the U.S., container terminals are slowing to a crawl. The once efficient system is now struggling to keep pace with the changing landscape. At the Port of Los Angeles, incoming cargo volumes dropped 35% by the end of April compared to the same time last year. This significant decline underscores the severity of the situation. Executive Director Gene Soroka confirmed the steep drop, blaming the sudden tariff increase. He emphasized the need for a more stable and predictable trade environment. Retailers are pulling back. Many are postponing or canceling shipments to avoid the high taxes on Chinese goods. They are scrambling to find alternative sources and strategies to mitigate the impact. In the Pacific Northwest, the Port of Seattle is also preparing for a significant slowdown. The ripple effects of the trade tensions are being felt across the entire region. Commissioner Ryan Kalins warned that such a drop wouldn't just hurt the docks. The impact would extend to the broader economy, affecting jobs and livelihoods throughout the region. It takes around 2 weeks to reposition ships from places like Qingdao, Shanghai, or Jiaxing, load the containers, and another 2 weeks to cross the Pacific. The long lead times involved in international shipping mean that any disruption can have a significant impact. By mid-May 2025, at least 400,000 containers across the country were delayed, rerouted, or stranded. This staggering number highlights the scale of the crisis. Many of these containers hold essential items: medical supplies, food, electronics, and building materials. The delays are not just about trade, they are about access to vital goods. Truck drivers are among the first to feel the slowdown. With fewer containers arriving, many are left sitting idle. Their livelihoods are directly threatened by the disruption. The entire logistics system is completely out of sync. The delicate balance that keeps goods flowing smoothly has been disrupted, creating a ripple effect throughout the economy. The disruption originating in the ports is now spreading like wildfire across America's highways and byways. Just 6 weeks after the April tariff spike, the trucking industry, the lifeblood of our economy, is starting to crawl, facing unprecedented challenges. Navji Gill, a trucking company owner operating in Northern California, said his fleet used to haul about 50 containers per week, ensuring a steady flow of goods.
When containers stop moving, so does money. Fuel and insurance costs don't go away, they remain constant, but with idle trucks, the business bleeds cash, creating a very difficult situation.
All across Southern California, vast trucking yards are becoming parking lots, filled with rows upon rows of parked trucks, a stark visual representation of the slowdown. The issue isn't mechanical. These trucks are in perfect working order. The problem is purely economic, stemming from a lack of demand. Perishable items, once destined for dinner tables, are getting spoiled and discarded. Time-sensitive shipments are missing crucial deadlines, leading to further losses. This crisis starkly reveals just how fragile and interconnected the global supply chain system really is. One broken link, one disruption, affects the whole chain, creating a domino effect. Most American importers are now reporting that they've stopped shipping goods out of China altogether because they simply can't afford to pay 2.5 times the original cost. With container congestion worsening at major ports, American retailers, both big and small, are now under serious pressure to keep shelves stocked. Everyday products like essential medication, packaged groceries, basic school supplies, and consumer electronics are among the hardest hit by these disruptions. Major chains such as Walmart, Target, and Home Depot managed to bring in extra inventory earlier this year, but those emergency supplies were only expected to cover consumer demand through the spring months. According to the latest data from the National Retail Federation, total import volumes are expected to drop by as much as 20% due to the implementation of new tariffs and ongoing shipping issues. Smaller retailers, the backbone of many communities, are especially vulnerable to these challenges. Many simply don't have large warehouses or enough available capital to effectively handle sudden disruptions. But it's not just about business logistics and supply chains. Consumer behavior is also shifting in response to these economic pressures. Take Emily Lay, for example, a resourceful entrepreneur. She runs a small company in Pensacola, Florida called Simplified, which produces and sells high-end planners and office supplies. Meanwhile, down in Houston, Texas, the local fashion scene, known for its creativity and innovation, is also feeling the squeeze and pressure. What makes it even harder and more challenging is that small businesses typically don't have the same financial safety nets as larger corporations. In Savannah, Georgia, a family-owned furniture importer, a pillar of the local economy, had to make the difficult decision to cancel all its China-bound orders because the tariffs effectively doubled their costs. As small businesses are forced to close their doors or significantly shrink their operations, job losses and broader economic slowdowns inevitably follow, impacting communities nationwide.
I won't lower my prices. They know the tariff will hit on its own, one frustrated importer said, expressing a sentiment shared by many in the industry.
While businesses are battling supply chain issues and soaring costs, the federal government seems stuck in political gridlock, unable to find common ground on critical economic policies. The consequences of this inaction are becoming increasingly apparent. President Donald Trump still insists the tariffs are a win, saying at a recent rally that they're bringing jobs back and forcing foreign rivals to play fair. He continues to defend his trade policies as essential for American economic strength. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent recently admitted in a press conference that everyday consumers are being affected, with price hikes at major retailers like Walmart directly tied to the import taxes. This acknowledgement highlights the real-world impact of the trade disputes. While the White House holds firm, Democrats are pointing to rising evidence of economic damage. They argue that the tariffs are hurting American businesses and consumers and are advocating for a change in trade policy. A recent Reuters analysis suggests that Congress won't step in unless the economic damage becomes a serious political threat. The level of economic pain will ultimately determine whether lawmakers take action to address the situation. The 90-day tariff truce between the U.S. and China, reducing tariffs from 145% to 30%, was meant to ease pressure on the economy. Instead, it sparked a last-minute panic as businesses rushed to import goods before the truce ended. In just the first week of May, container bookings from China to the U.S. surged by 277%, according to logistics platform Vision. This unprecedented spike created a bottleneck in the supply chain. Major Chinese ports like Yantian and Ningbo quickly became jammed, struggling to handle the sudden influx of orders. Industry data shows that nearly 1,000 ships will arrive at U.S. and Canadian ports in just 6 weeks, potentially overwhelming port infrastructure.
Gene Soroka, director at the Port of Los Angeles, warned that April's quiet period was misleading.
Experts call this a whiplash effect. When sudden policy changes happen faster than supply chains can adapt, leading to disruptions and inefficiencies. In fact, some U.S. importers have already canceled orders from China just to avoid steep fees, further impacting trade volumes.
We only have 7 ships at port today, a port official said. On a normal Wednesday, you'd see 12 to 14 vessels.
Across ports, highways, warehouses, and store shelves, the warning signs are piling up, indicating a potential slowdown in economic activity.
I don't want to charge $5 for a cup of coffee. Most people just want a decent cup. We're not here to take advantage of them.
The National Retail Federation now predicts that imports will drop by at least 20% in the coming months, with sharper declines in industries like apparel and electronics. This forecast reflects growing concerns about the impact of trade policies on consumer spending. The big question now is it too late to fix this? Can policymakers reverse the negative trends and restore stability to the economy? If things don't improve fast, is the U.S. heading toward a self-inflicted recession? The stakes are high and the consequences of inaction could be severe. In the coming weeks, trade data won't just show us numbers. It will show whether leaders can still respond in time, or if the point of no return has already been crossed, leading to lasting economic damage.